Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is the Akazaki Yahoo, and I start this broadcast as I start every broadcast by giving all praise, honor, and great esteem to the Most High Power, Yahuwah, Bahashim, Yahushua, Hamashiach, and to the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth. I say Shalom, Wabarukim. That is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day that the Most High brings us back together and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High power, under one covenant once again. Hallelujah. So I wanted to speak just for a brief moment about genealogy. I've seen some conversation in recent days about Abraham, Father Abraham, our father, the not quite the beginning, but the beginning of the beginning, as to who Father Abraham was and the language that he spoke. Somehow, some way, it has been propagated that Father Abraham spoke Aramaic. I don't know how you could come to a conclusion that Father Abraham would speak Aramaic when Father Abraham was of the house of Eber. He comes from the lineage, the line of Eber. That's why we're going to discuss genealogy today. All praises to the Most High. So let us begin with the book of Bereshit, and we're going to go to the Table of Nations, chapter number 10. Chapter number 10. You can see at the beginning of the headline, at the beginning of the chapter, it has a headline written, "The Descendants of Noah." We're going to skip all the way down to verse number 21. Chapter 10 and verse number 21. And it reads, "Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber." Shem, the father of all the children of Eber. Does that mean Shem fathered the children of Eber? No. That means Shem is the beginning of the line of Eber. This is what we have to understand. Genealogy. So, context, keep it in context. From Adam came Seth. From Seth, we got, through the line of Seth, I should say, we got Noah. Now, Seth came directly from Adam's own loins. Noah did not come directly from Seth. Noah came through the line of Seth. Through Seth we get to Noah. You had Seth and you had Cain in the earth at this time. Through Seth, we get to the line of Noah. Noah begot 3 sons: Japheth, Shem, and Ham. And that's what we're reading here. Verse 21 again. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born. Verse 22. And the children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. 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 This is where the language Aramaic comes from. Aram. Didn't start with at this point, because what we're going to find as we continue to read. So we get Aram here. Aram is directly from Shem, one of Shem's own children. Let's take a look at what his name means. Raym. Aram. It's translated into Syria 76 times. It's translated to Syrians 56 times. Aram 7 times. Syrian messages from 4001 one time, and in another instance, another one time. It means exiled. Aram or Armenians. Aram or Syria, the nation. The Syrian or Armenian people. Aram, exiled, the fifth son of Shem, grandson of Nahor, a descendant of Ashar. The fifth son of Shem is who this Aram is speaking of. This is the beginning of the Aramaic language. Comes from Aram, the Syrian. As we read more in the Strong's definition, it says Aram is from the same as H759, the highlighted Aram of Syria or Syria. It is inhabitants, and its inhabitants, Syrian people. Also, the name of the son of Shem, a grandson of Nahor, and of an Israelite, Aram, Mesopotamia, Syria, Syrian. So this is the beginning of the Aramaic language, as it comes from Aram. It comes from Syria. It comes from those people. And this is the father of those people. Now, as we continue to read here, verse 23, and the children of Aram, Luz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. And it goes through all of this genealogy. I'm not going to go through all of it. But what it does do is it points us to chapter 24, in verse 24, and Arphaxad begot Selah, and Selah begot Eber. So why did it jump from Aram to Arphaxad? Arphaxad is the third son mentioned from the line of Shem. Why is it talking about Arphaxad right here in verse 24? Let's continue reading. Unto Eber were born 2 sons, and one was Peleg. For in his day was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. So it's giving us a few things. Arphaxad, Selah, and Eber. And it's telling us unto Eber were born 2 sons, Peleg and Joktan. All of this is significant because it all goes directly into genealogy. Now, If you followed your genealogical patriarchal line, it's going to lead you directly back to uh, either Eber, meaning you are a descendant of Eber, or it could lead you back to Aram, meaning you are a descendant of Aram. Was Abraham descended from Eber, or was he descended from Aram? The language that he spoke would be a direct reflection of his his genealogy. Would the children of Aram speak what the children of Eber spoke? No, because they likely lived in two different places. Same area, there's two different places. It's much like here in the United States. You go in some cities and there's one form of English being spoken. You go to another place and there's a different type of English being spoken. It can vary from city to city, from state to state. Same thing in this situation. You have the children of Aram in one place. You also have the children of Uz, the children of Hol, the children of Gether, and the children of Mash. All of these are Aram's children. Salika, I said that incorrectly. So of the children of Shem, you had Elam, Ashar, Arphaxad, Luz, and Aram. So is it possible that these all would have been speaking the same language? At this point, absolutely yes. They would have all been speaking the same language. Why? How can you say that, Akizaki Yahoo? Well, all we have to do is continue to read. But before we move forward, let's just get an understanding of what's being brought out here in verse 24. We went from the children of Aram, who is where the Aramaic language began, and to Arphaxad. Arphaxad begot Selah, and Selah begot Eber. Unto Eber were two sons born, Peleg, for in his day was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Now, if you go through the genealogy here of Joktan and who came from Joktan, Joktan had 13 sons. 13 sons. He also lived in a place that was east, very much east, which it says that right here in verse 30. You go through all of his sons' names, and you get to verse 30, it says, and their dwelling was from Mesha, or Misha, as you go as unto Sephir, a mount of the east. So they were east. What is east of? Understand the conversation here is generating from this is actually on Sinai. That's where Moshe is receiving this information from. The writer of Bereshit, this is where he's receiving this information from. So let's continue to chapter 11 here. Chapter 11, and start with verse number 1. We can see the headline, Universal Language, Babel, Confusion. Chapter 11 and verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and one speech. So the whole earth was of one language and one speech. There was one dialect, one speech being spoken, because everybody came from Noah. Noah's house consisted of Japheth, Shem, and Ham. So all of them, as they spread out, as we read through chapter 11 or chapter 10 there, we get all of the genealogy from those three sons. But here we're getting something different. So let's continue. Verse 2. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelled there. And they said one to another, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, let us go and build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto Shamaim. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. So they already knew what their punishment was going to be. Once they got to a certain extent, they was going to be scattered abroad through the face of the whole earth. They already knew that. Verse 5. And Yahuwah came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men built. And Yahuwah said, behold, the people is one, Akkad, and they have one language, and this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Meaning that basically with what they have and what they can accomplish, nothing will be kept from them. They will be able to do everything, which is exactly where we are today. Let's continue. Verse 17. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So this was the punishment, part of the punishment. Verse 8. And Yahuwah scattered them abroad from thence up on the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore was the name of it called Babel, because Yahuwah did confound the language of all the earth, and from there did Yahuwah scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So we get the punishment for the wrongdoing. Remember, this is post-flood. There's none of Cain's children left on the earth. They have all been wiped out. This is post-ark. This is them getting off the ark and them multiplying through those three sons. Japheth the eldest, Shem, and Ham. Verse number 10. It says, these are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old when he begot Arphaxad, 2 years after the flood. So Shem, after he got off the ark, 2 years later, he begot Arphaxad. Verse 11. And Shem lived after he begot Arphaxad 500 years and begot sons and daughters. So he produced a major amount of people, for he lived for 500 years and begot sons and daughters. Verse 12. And Arphaxad lived 35 years and begot Selah. And Arphaxad lived after he begot Selah 403 years and begot sons and daughters. And Selah lived 30 years and begot Eber. Now, why are we going through this context here, because the Most High is delivering unto Moshe for us, for our benefit in this day and time. He's delivering to Eber our own genealogy. So again, from Adam to Seth, from Seth, through the line of Seth, we get Noah. Through the line of Noah, we get, or from Noah, we get Shem. Through the line of Shem, we get Eber. And guess, from the line of Eber, guess who comes after that? Because those other people are good to know, but they're not intricate. The intricate parts, the most important parts, are the ones that I'm mentioning. From Adam to Seth, to Noah, to Shem, to Eber. And guess who comes after Eber? Let's keep reading. Verse 14, again. And Salah lived 30 years and begot Eber. And Salah lived after he begot Eber 403 years and begot sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years and begot Peleg. Now, we read in chapter 10 that there were two sons. It was Peleg and Joktan. Why are we not getting Joktan here? Because this is genealogy. This is the line of how you get to our patriarch. This is the line of our patriarchs. Let's continue. And Eber lived after he begot Peleg 430 years and begot sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and begot Reu. So as we go through these, we're getting closer and closer to a destination. Verse 19. And Peleg lived after he begot Reu 209 years and begot sons and daughters. And Reu lived 30 years and begot Shrug. And Shrug lived after he begot, and Reu lived after he begot Shrug 207 years and begot sons and daughters. And Shrug lived 30 years and begot Nahor. Who is Nahor? Let's keep reading. And Shrug lived after he begot Nahor 200 years and begot sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 9 years and begot Terah. And Nahor lived after he begot Terah 119 years and begot sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So here's the destination that we were getting to. Understand, this is the representative of the Most High, the messenger of the Most High, speaking to Moshe on Mount Sinai, giving him all of this information to put into HaTorah. To understand who he is and where he came from. So that all of these years, all of these generations later, Akazaki Yahoo can open up the book and can read where I came from and where my beginning is. That's why we didn't get anything about Joktan in this area, in this place, because Abram didn't come from Joktan. Abram came from Peleg. Peleg name means earthquake. That's when the Most High divided the earth into the continents that we know now. Before that, before it was divided, it had to be one. You can't divide something if it's not one. It had to be one continent or one landmass, and then he divided it. And that's what we got now. Let us continue. Verse 26. And Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Verse 27. These are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldeans. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Isaac. Isaac. Let's see how they pronounce that.
Strong's H3252. Yiskah.
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 I said Iskah. Yiskah. So, what are we looking at here? What we're looking at is simply this. Abraham comes through the line of Eber, not Aram. Abram, the son of Terah, would have spoken the language that his people would have had. His people were separated from those other people. That's why we're separated by chapters. They both come from Shem, but they don't both come from the same place. You got Eber, who came from Arphaxad. Not Aram. So by genealogy, Aram, who would have been speaking Aramaic, and Eber, whose language is the Hebrew language, or as we know today modernly as Hebrew, because that's where Eber comes from. That's where the word Hebrew comes from, is Eber. To be a Hebrew is not a clique or a something of that nature. It is a dissension. You descend from the children of Eber. We Shemitic? Yes, we are. We're also Iberim or Hebrew. Were all the Shemites Hebrews? Absolutely not. All the Shemites were not Hebrews. Only the people from Eber would have been called, modernly called today, Hebrews. The rest of them would have been called something completely different, because you would have been called after the house of where you are from. So how is it we have an ideology that Abraham would have spoke Aramaic, the language of Aram? Doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. So let's skip to chapter 14 here. So we're dealing with the children of, at this point, we're dealing with Abram, because Abram It's who we come from. So in chapter 14 here, what we're getting is an introduction to what's known as, or what was known as Sodom and Gomorrah. It started verse 11 here. And they took the goods, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. Verse 13. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram, the Hebrew, this word Hebrew here goes right back to the word Eber. Ibri, Hebrew, one from beyond. We see it's used 34 times in 32 different verses. What does this mean? This means specifically you come through the line of Eber. Doesn't mean that you're an Israelite. Doesn't mean that you're from Shem. Does mean you're from Shem, but not specifically, because Iberim or Hebrew is a specific designation. It means you come through that line of Eber. That's the genealogy. So to say that Father Abraham would have spoken Aramaic as opposed to Hebrew, or the Eber, the language that Eber would have spoken, I don't know how you come to that conclusion, because we don't see anything about Aram at this point. Matter of fact, let's go back. Let's go back to chapter 11, or chapter 10, I should say, Salika. Verse 21, Salika. Verse 22. And the children of Shem, Elon, and Asher, and Alphaxdad, and Lud, and Aram. Let's see how many times Aram is used through the script here. So a lot of us is just saying stuff and don't even understand what we're saying. Aram is used 133 times in 118 verses. So the first time we see it is where we are, Bereshit chapter 22, chapter 10 and verse 22. Also in 23, we see it again in verse 22. Father of Haran. Haran, out of the mountain. So when you speak of Haran, you're speaking of his people. Judges, chapter 10 and verse 6. And the idols of Syria, or Haran, You're talking about a specific people. And when the Syrian or the people of Haram of Damascus came, this is what we're speaking of here. Syrian. This is Haram. Haram. That's what these people became servants to Dawood. And David put garrison in the city of the people of Haram of Damascus, and the Syrians or the people of Haram became servants to Dawood. Of the people of Haram and of the people of Moab and of the children of Ammon and of the Philistines. So when you see this word for Syria, that's referring to the people of Haran. So in understanding genealogy, I'm going to close with this. When we get into the book, chapter number 10, we get the genealogy of everybody after the flood, post-flood. We get all of the descendants who came after the earth had flooded and after they had gotten off of the ark. Once we get to the line of Shem, what we get specifically is to the lineage as we get through the lineage of Abram. Why we get through the lineage of Abram? Because Abram is the key portion to our heritage. So we get everything through him, from him. It was actually the promise made by the Most High to not to Shem, to Abram, that he would do for us as he has done. And that's why we are where we are at this point. And that's why we're waking up, because of the promise that was made to our forefather Abram, whose name was changed to Abraham. Abraham of the line of Eber. That's why he was called Abraham the Iberim. Hebrew is a modern term. What Hebrew means is that one from the line of Eber. So when you follow Akazaki Yahu, you go into his genealogy, my genealogy, and you follow back, it's going to take you to that line of Eber. Of course, Eber came from Shem. Like I said, we got from Adam, we got Seth. Through the line of Seth, we get Noah. From Noah, we get Shem. From Shem, we get Eber. Through Eber, we get Abraham. And then Abraham's son Isaac, and Isaac's son Jacob, and Jacob's 12 sons, who are the children of Israel or Yasha'al. That's how we get where we are today. Through that genealogy, you get the 12 tribes of Israel. And it goes even deeper, because all of those sons had sons, and all of those children had children. And through those sons, you get the breakdown of who everyone came from. And all praises to the Most High, Akazaki Yahu would be a part of one of those tribes, whichever one. I tend to think I'm from Yehuda or Wayonde, or typically because I'm read like King David. Because I'm read like King David was, ready like King David was, I tend to think I'm from Yehuda or Wayonde. But you hadn't heard Wayande before, huh? That's what they say. That's how they pronounce it now in uh, the Bantu languages. Wayande, Yahuda. So that's all I have on the genealogy. Just to understand what the genealogy is, it literally traces back your father, his father. It traces back the fathers all the way back, all the way back, so you understand who it is you come from. You follow your genealogy back. That Y chromosome, and why is it the fathers? Because that Y chromosome does not change. That Y chromosome stays the same. From well, it changes, it adds something to it. The base of it never changes. So you can trace it all the way back. It'll trace all the way back to Adam. It'll trace all the way back to Seth. It'll trace all the way back to Noah. It'll trace all the way back to Shem. It'll trace all the way back to Eber. Trace all the way back to Abraham. Trace all the way back to Isaac, to Jacob, to one of those 12. Which one do you fall in? That's the question mark. Which one of those 12 do you fall in? It's easy to say because the southern kingdom was scattered uh, from uh, Jerusalem. So children of Yehuda and the children of Jerusalem were scattered. It's easy to say that we are Yehuda, but I want to drop this nugget in your purse, in your pocket. Is it possible that the 12 tribes, being what they were, that some of the righteous, it was some righteous in the 12, even when they started to go off? If I'm best buddies, if somebody from Reuben is best buddies with somebody from Yehuda or Wayande, would it not be normal that he would go to Wayande and live and hang out and break bread? He may not live there like that, but he'd come and visit, stay at his house, break bread with him, and they, tight as can be. So when Ephraim say, "Hey, let's do this or let's do that," somebody in the house of Reuben like, "Nah, I ain't doing that. I'm hanging with Yehuda over here. I'm not doing that. But y'all going about that. I'm not doing that." So he stayed with them. Is that not a possibility? And it probably wasn't just a single instance when that happened. So who are we as far as the 12 go? I dare not say. I don't say that. I cannot guarantee you I am Yehuda. I can't guarantee you that. But what I can guarantee you is I will serve the Most High with everything I have. That I can guarantee you. And with that, this is your Akazaki Yahu. I give all praise, honor, and great esteem to the Most High Power, Yahuwah, Bahashem, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, and to the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered to the 4 quarters of Eretz of the earth. I say, Shalom Wabarukim, that is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day that the Most High brings us back together and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High power, under one covenant once again. Until that day, I say, Shalom Mishpachah. Shalom, family.